Welcome, my darlings, to this lunar return synthesis. And we are now getting more and more familiar with how to look at a chart, different combinations, different possibilities, different things that we can see with house combinations and signs and planets. And even though a lot of the alignments that I'm going to talk about here in my chart for last month, they've already passed, it's still about the concept behind it. And my hope here is to help you expand your mind of the things that can be done with the signs, especially the signs. You know, the signs in the houses, the signs in the ascendant. This is where we're going to start with. You know, the ascendant in any chart is, if you don't want to go wrong, start with the ascendant as a starting point. You know, the ascendant is such a perfect starting point. It gives you the theme of whatever you're looking at. So, you know, we're going to look at some combinations, some stories connected to it, and I'll let you all ask questions and expand your horizons on astrology through my chart and the questions you ask. But above all, this is really about getting familiar with the dynamic of, oh, she goes there first and she does that. And oh, really interesting how she looks at it that way. So I have my charts here. Let me just grab that really quick. I also have my physical charts. And, you know, I tend to take a lot of notes during the month. And this is because so much happens. I don't even remember at all. You know, even a few days later, I don't remember. But also because, you know, I like to refer back to it weeks later, months later, years later, even when I, you know, want a refresher on certain things and certain combinations and my experiences around it. So it's a good thing to take those notes. It's also a really interesting thing to take notes before the month begins, and then you go adding notes as the month unfolds, and then you can go back to those notes at the end of the month and just compare all of them and see how it actually unfolded for you. So, you know, my new lunar return actually started today, and it's so fascinating to notice the immediate difference that you feel in energy. And especially when you studied your chart and you know some of the alignments there, and you can see certain aspects of that month already immediately in that day start to come to life for you. And I know that most of you know what I'm talking about, because as you follow your own lunar return, it's what happens. And the starting point is the ascendant. You can right there, right, bam. So I went from a Virgo ascendant to a 0-degree Capricorn ascendant. I've got the 0 degrees of Capricorn and Cancer, which is the Aries points. Very powerful lunar return that I switched to now. But let's begin with the previous one. So let's go to my entire screen here. So what I have here on the screen is, of course, my natal chart, which we're always going to be making reference to. We're probably going to have to do this a little smaller. And then last month's lunar return. And this one is the one that I just switched to right now, this month's lunar return. Here we have my 0 degrees Capricorn ascendant. And of course, that naturally makes my descendant 0 degrees Cancer. But we'll take a little peek at that at the end. But this is the main chart that we're looking at here. This is the main one that we're working with, okay? And this here is a chart for December, and it began December 9th. And I will tell you that the first thing in this chart that I'm going to start with is the ascendant. And naturally, when you look at your ascendant, you are naturally pulling in the descendant. You know, they work together. And this month, more than ever, I saw it. Like, I noticed how my ascendant and my descendant played together so closely. Like, one was an extension of the other, to the extent where I really looked at myself this month, because I had Chiron in the seventh house. There was a lot of, I even talked about it on my last lunar return analysis, like, oh, I know it's coming. It's another thing to experience and be like, okay, all right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. But bringing that Chiron energy through others, I definitely felt that point of vulnerability and, wounding. And a lot of it come from close friends and them expressing that to me and me being called on to help them in a very, this is the axis of the healer, the Virgo and Pisces. So there was a lot of Chiron related themes in my relationship with others. But I really reflected on that as being the seventh house is a mirror extension of you. So it was a profound experience to, like, okay, I'm experiencing this Chiron in others and relationships and definitely seeing that in others. But at the end of the day, we know that the seventh house is a reflection of you. So I understood that to be as me, embracing more of the healer in me, healing a lot of things within me, right? There was a lot of family work that I've been doing as well with my family. And so it's an interesting thing to remember that the seventh house works together with the first. The ascendant works together with the descendant here. So, okay, Virgo and Pisces. This is the axis of the healer. Okay, no way around it. And it doesn't mean that every time you get a Virgo as you're rising, you're going to be a healer or you're going to experience that. There's many different ways Virgo can express itself. It's very much about work, very much about the, methodical, getting involved, making the list, planning things out, studying as well. But I will tell you that in the context of my month, it really shone through as the healer energy. The month of December was a turning point month for the world. So, as many of you know, you saw my posts. I've been posting a lot of meditation pictures that we've been experiencing here in Sedona, holding these energies for the world and doing a lot of energy work on a big scale here with a lot of people. And so that immediately just falls straight into the category of Virgo, the meditations, all that service oriented work, but very spiritually related too, especially because of the context of my life and also the context of the world and where the world is at. So the meditations were a key point of my month. Through these meditations, I definitely got to experience my own energies as, the healer in me and the light being and all those terms and everything. But it was a very profound experience doing that for the planet and so many people. So through these meditations, I was able to have a very close connection with a lot of people and people that are doing this work. My sisters, as I call it. A lot of them are my sisters. And we formed like this bond of like service and help, and very beautiful. So I shared pictures and some of the moments I shared some of that, but most of it is, it's just so much to share, and a lot that goes on behind the scenes as well. But this aspect of meditation was very pronounced. Now, during that time, I wrote, so here I wrote all the, I'm going through all my lists of all the things I wrote on my sign. And I wrote here that I definitely felt overall more compassionate. This was wow. If you ever get a Virgo and Pisces for your lunar returns, or even solar return, it's a longer frequency here, ascendant and descendant, you naturally feel more service oriented. You feel more compassionate. You feel more overall understanding of people. I'm not saying that I didn't feel I mean, obviously, look at Chiron in the seventh house. I did have my fair share of, wounding come up here with others. But overall, there was this sense of compassion that really helped me to understand other people more than usual. So, through this frequency here, through this experience, it also becomes a point of attraction to me. And so I got a lot of feedback this last month about how I was helping people heal, like people that would come close to me, and they were using these words, which I was like, wow! I just thought about my lunar return the whole time. I don't get that very often, like the word healer. I get a lot of like activation or things like that. I get a lot, but the healer, I don't usually get that compliment. And I got a lot of people telling me that even through my sessions, some through my sessions, other people that came here personally, they were like, oh my God, just being around your field, like I feel like I'm healing. And so these comments were very beautiful, but also very descriptive of my path this month with this service and healing energy. Now, the interesting thing is that it just so happened that it worked out for me to go with a group of friends and other people to take an aura picture this month as well. So, I mean, how Virgo related is that? And what a highlight that I like. I'm going to ask you for just one moment while I get it. I think I know where it is because I want to show you. Just a minute. Okay, it's supposed to be here. Let me see if I find it. So what happened is that I ended up going with a group of friends and people that were here visiting me. I don't think it's here. Anyway, I have to share it with you guys afterwards. I have it on my phone too. And it was such a beautiful experience because I've never done this before, by the way. I've never had my picture taken before of my aura. So it was a Curlian photography camera. So it's not like there's a lot of other aura afterwards. I went to them and I'm like, no, that's not the same as the one I went to. So the original one was Curlian photography, and there's only like a certain amount of those cameras in the world, like I don't know, like 8 or 10 or something, and that lady here in Sedona has 2 of them. So it's a very beautiful thing to look at what you look like just from the energy part. And it was amazing. Like I was like a little child, like, oh my God, how does this work? So she was very surprised with my aura and said that it's extremely rare. She was even like, what do you do? Can I work for you? It's like your aura. She's like, I haven't seen something like this. And she's like, it took me years of training myself to get a picture close to what yours looks like. And she's like, what do you do? And so she talked about this ring that I had around my aura. It's like this complete circle that she said it's this extra field of protection that is also super rare, that most people don't have. Most people have like either an arch or like a little piece of it, but I have this full circle all the way around it. And the colors were just all violet and white and a little blue too. It was really pretty. So I went with all these friends and we looked at each other's auras, and they were all very different. Each one was very different from the other. So it was an amazing experience for me. And I was like, wow, this is what I look like energy. Wow. So that really brought about the Virgo thing for me, because having that visual of the aura, is there someone trying to, no. Having the visual of the aura really helped me to ingrain my awareness on who I am and what I'm carrying with me, and the energy that comes out from my hands and my being when I'm around others. So it just made me be aware of this factor. Hey, you're carrying all this with you too. So I think also being mindful of that also contributed maybe to other people having these experiences and saying that, feeling that healing energy. But that was beautiful. I definitely have to show you that picture. Yeah. Oh gosh, I didn't come prepared here, but it's really pretty. I'm trying to actually scan it because I took a photo of the photo and it doesn't look like the same thing. So I need to just go to Staples or something and scan it. So another thing that I wrote here is that my experiences with the service and the compassion and the healing and all that, it wasn't just physical. There were many levels of that, and one of them that I really experienced this, it was actually in the turning of the New Year's Eve, where, I mean, I haven't even talked about this with anyone. I don't even know how to put into words, but I thought I was going to watch a movie. I'm like, okay, I'm getting ready, set up to watch a movie. And I'm like going to the kitchen to get something, and all of a sudden, bam! I'm like, nope, I guess I'm not going to watch a movie. And sometimes I just get pulled immediately into like certain space or a certain like something that needs to be done, energetically. And so I thought I was going to watch a movie that night, and it didn't work that way. And I was instantly just like pulled, where your entire awareness and your experience is just like somewhere else. And it was a really profound experience. I was there for like, I usually say when I get to these states, I say that I'm out. I'm out. So I was out for like at least 3 hours, I think. And so many different experiences, but one of them, I was with the avatars. I've never experienced this before. And I was pulled to where they were, and I was conducting ceremony for them. It was a really powerful experience. And I mean, like, the Virgo energy is the priestess energy as well, as it comes from Virgo. That's why the Virgo is the virgin. It's that pure virgin, the feminine, service priestess energy is Virgo. And of course, Vesta is in Virgo right now for the world. So I was pulled, and I'm not used to talking about these things. I don't usually talk about these things, but yeah, it was a very powerful moment because it was a moment of realization that we've all kind of concluded eras and lifetimes of service into preparing and paving the way for this. So that point of awareness, and then allowing all of us collectively, including the avatars, and of course the cosmic bodies and everyone else who is involved, but for some reason it was the avatars there, allowing them to transition into this new state of experience and awareness. Now that we're concluding this, it's been lifetimes of evolution and service, even for the avatars. We've been getting to know ourselves more, and now we're all graduating, we're all expanding into new states of awareness and being as well. So they, in their own way, are also concluding lifetimes of their mission and service here to the planet, and they're in many ways moving on, you know? So it was really powerful, experiencing that. And I was at least for 3 hours. And I can't even really fully put it into words right now, but it was something that I've never experienced before, not like this. And then the interesting thing is that the next day I start getting, it does always happens. You get like, start getting confirmations, other people saying that they had, oh my God, I was, seeing the avatars graduating. Okay, that's what I got the next day. I saw the avatars like celebrating. I'm like, oh, go figure. It's like we're all collectively kind of tapping into these experiences together, and it's really beautiful. So that was another Virgo point there. I mapped out feeling the service and the healing part, not just physically, but, etherically and spiritually as well. Now, Virgo is not alone, and it does come with Pisces in the seventh house. And interesting to notice how, if I had the cusp of my seventh house in Aries, it would have been a different vibe than Pisces. If it was just Aries, it would have brought a lot of the aggression and the, self-imposing and those like very energetic experiences into my relationships. And I'm glad I had Pisces too. It kind of buffers. Is that how you say a buffer? It buffers it a little bit. I still experience Chiron, but I have a little bit more of the compassionate lens of Pisces, and it's so descriptive of my other my experience with others this last month. Well, first of all, I felt like people overall were more offended with me. I don't know if it's because of like and I kept thinking like, Raquel, you got Pisces and Chiron in the seventh house. Like, don't be a crybaby. Just, it is what it is. But I felt like people were more offended with me overall this month. Like that silent, when like someone's kind of like offended and it, but you don't talk about it. That's what it was. This is like Pisces, the unspoken, right? You don't even know what it is, and Chiron. But the reason for that, and the main reason for that was, and I'm going to go back to the other side of the seventh house as well. But the main reason for that is because through all the meditations and working with others, I had so many people reach out to me for help and sessions and a lot of stuff like that. I had a lot of people wanting to connect with me and spend time with me and come here in my house and go out and do things and messages, and just all you have to do is look at my third house and you're going to understand that I thought it was going to go crazy this last month. I can't do this. Thank God part of fortune was here, because it made it, there was a lot of good moments too. We're going to talk more about the third house, but I felt overwhelmed with the amount of people that were just like needing help and wanting to spend time and wanting to hang out. And like, I can't, like, I don't have a day of the week that I can just go out with everybody and do things, So, I had to very politely let them know I couldn't, I didn't have time. And I felt like people were a little offended, maybe they interpret it as like, I don't want to be with them or something. I don't know. But for me, it's like, oh man, for all my Libra that I have in my natal chart, it's just like the worst thing in the world is knowing that I offended someone. And the sun in my seventh house too is just like, but it's been a process for me of really defining also my voice, my pace, how much I help and where I show up, and not feeling guilty about, just the give and take ratio here in my life moving forward. Because moving forward, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. So I felt the seventh house. This is like a lot of people were reflecting that, like being offended. And then I would feel like, oh man, like, God, I can't, what do I do? I can't do my work. I'm only one of me. So I felt Chiron in seventh house there. I also felt Chiron in the seventh house through many levels of relationship, so these were, like I said, people in Sedona, people in my work, in my community, closer people. As you can see here in my chart, I made a lot of very powerful, solid connections this last month. So also just navigating that. Where does the heart come in? Where does it not? Where are we falling into old patterns? Where are we like just friends? Where are we working? Like all these things, and having to be clear, having to put boundaries, like all those things, and then dealing with like people that are good people, and just having to get clear on certain things. So, a lot of seventh house vulnerabilities coming up here. Another thing in seventh house is others in general, people that are close to me. Along the lines of the healer and the service oriented, I was called on this month by a few of my close friends to be a support to them during their times of transition. They have close ones that are battling cancer and their life. I had a lot of people this month tell me that their beloved is like on the last stages, and asking me to pray for them and heal them, and like things like that, of that nature. So here are the people that also came to me. I received a lot of people of course, December is a culminating point for the world. And so a lot of people came in through this window here, carrying their burdens and their loved ones' burdens. But, Chiron is very heartfelt. It's not like, for example, Saturn or Mars. Chiron, that's why I use the word vulnerability with Chiron, because there is a wounding here, but it's not necessarily an aggressive wounding. It can be, in Aries, yeah, it can be, and depending on what other configurations are here. But in general, Chiron he's a peaceful guy. He's a peaceful guy. So when we feel Chiron, it's more of like that silent wounding that maybe other people are not even aware of, but we're definitely feeling that sore spot. So I had a lot of people come to me with that sore spot and with that heart, and helping people understand this heart opening that's happening. It's been the main theme of my messages. It's just allow the heart openings to happen, even if you don't understand the methods. We're having some really interesting dynamics happen, that we're all having these incredible heart openings. So helping people realize that. And so even in my 6th house of health and service, you can see a confirmation of these themes, of service and unconditional love and compassion. Look at Ceres over here in Pisces. So conjunct here, they're all together. The vertex point brings all the significant experiences, including the avatar experiences, which is a very Neptunian in Pisces experience to have, in the 6th house especially, but also the very physical ones of assisting others and being there for them, and just that whole theme of healer and healing. It's also reflected in my 6th house. So I had particularly this one friend reach out to me. I had several, but there's this one that I know very well from Maine, where I used to live. And she's going through a very delicate time in her life, because she's a mother of 3 kids. One of them is autistic and has been in that, like, forever trying to find that man. And a year ago, she found him. The most amazing, loving gentleman, like good looking guy as well, and just loves her unconditionally, took her in, like, with her 3 kids, and just completely loved her. And they were together for, a few months. I did their chart even before they got together, helped them analyze their connection as a soul. And it was very beautiful. Well, long story short is that she felt, like that whole passion kind of like died down a little bit. And so she decided to start moving on. And they were in Hawaii at the time. And so she just kind of like, oh, leave me alone. I just want to be alone now and stuff. Well, soon enough, she found out that he has cancer. And right now he is literally on the last stages of that. And for her, this is a heart-wrenching experience, because she's calling me, sending pictures of this, her beloved, and he's like in bed, like not even fully conscious, and I'm receiving these pictures on my phone, and like, oh God, I'm feeling her heart. And she's just battling that guilt of like, this is the angel that showed up to me, and I wasn't fully present, and the whole thing. I'm like, don't feel guilty, you both are angels in each other's lives. So basically he is spending the last few moments of his life in her house, and she's just day after day just there. And there's no more, the doctors already sent him home. And so it's a very tender moment for her. So she's been the main one that has been coming through here for me, helping her. She's been, please send healing, sending pictures and all that. And I feel that burden. I feel that heart and that space with them. Another thing, my own family, this Chiron opposite moon, which is something that I've been having for over a year now, coming to a culmination in December, because that's when Chiron's stationed direct. So bringing the family here. My sister, just the other day, her daughter had a serious accident, my sister Mary. And it's interesting because it's the same daughter that earlier in the year had COVID. And I even mentioned it to you back in, I think it was August. So, she's, obviously she called me, cry, and just, I can't even begin to imagine what it's like to have a daughter. And you know, received the news, oh, she's in the hospital, she just had an accident. So being there for her as well and helping her navigate this and everything, like, so you see how active, like the seventh house, everything. And in the beginning of my lunar return, I was like, I don't know how this is going to play out, but so that really had me analyze also the reflection point and really looking at myself for the parts of me that were also, graduating into the healer part and also healing a lot of parts within me too. There was another big heart opening with my father and I, and family related, of course. So another very beautiful one that is allowing us to have even a deeper level of understanding with each other. So the list just goes on, you know, and that's really the main theme here of this lunar return chart is this axis and showing you how much can be done just by the axis and the sign on your ascendant. Now, of course, this also came from me remembering the events and making note of them as well. But if you take your time to do that in your lunar return chart, you'd be surprised at how many themes show up in your month that are related to the Virgo. In my case, the Virgo and Pisces axis. And of course, primarily the Virgo. That's the point of focus here. So, go making those lists. You start off, like in my lunar return this month here, 0 degrees Capricorn, like I don't even know what to say. I'm like, really, universe? Really? Like, what does that mean? I'm like that too. But I will sit with that chart until I can figure out at least 2 or 3 words that I feel are already cooking up for me. What are some of the themes that I already feel that are related to this and prominent? And I can go getting something started. And when you do that in your chart, as the days go by and situations come up that you're just like, oh gosh, there's my Virgo ascendant right there. You remember and you jot it down. When you go back home or when you get back to your thing, you just jot it down. And sometimes it will be every day. Sometimes it will be once a week. It's just whenever it happens, you go writing these memories down, because by the end of the month, you're going to be like, wow, this really works, So right off the bat, this axis was everything in my month, everything. But then when we start to look at the concept of the angular houses, which is something that we've been talking about in our last classes, the synthesizing and interpreting. And I've had a lot of activity in my angular houses in my last lunar returns. So, the angular houses in general, they will bring attention and focus to the experiences there. And, this over here, what is interesting about these angular houses, the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th? Okay, what is interesting about these? Not so much the descendant or the IC, even though I do have Neptune, my natal Neptune is at 23 Sagittarius, but that's like definitely, it's just an extension of the Pisces, the healing, the feeling. I felt like people's sadness a lot, like all the way from people being offended with me to having to help others and show up as a healer. Like it was very Neptunian, But aside from that, there's something very prominent about these 2 angles over here. One of it is that my moon is here, but that automatically puts my 11th house stellium. So 0 to 4 degrees Libra is a very powerful zone in my chart. You will see in your chart that you will have these gatherings of planets that we call stelliums. Not everybody has it, but if you do, this is a very powerful point in your chart. Whenever it's active, whenever it shows up somewhere, whenever a person shows up in your life that activates that, this is a powerful point in your chart. These beginning degrees of Libra, And then, of course, naturally, to me personally, the beginning of all the air signs are very powerful for me. But this beginning point of Libra is very powerful. And so I always pay attention to where it falls in my lunar return. So, for you, it may be like a conjunction. Like, for example, another powerful place for me is this Venus and Mercury, because Venus is the final dispositor of my chart. It means that all the planets answer to Venus. So, Venus is an important player for me. And Mercury is very important because it rules my sun and it rules my house of relationships, the seventh and the eighth. So, when it comes to relationship, for me, it's all about Mercury. And they're together in this conjunction out of bounds. And so, when things happen here, it's like they become prominent and I feel it. So I like to keep my eye out for these little hot spots in my chart. And if they are being highlighted in some way in my lunar return. So, of course, you can do that with everything in your chart. You can go to your Mars, you can go to your North Node and try to see if there's anything conjuncting it. But primarily, these hot spots of energy are very important. So, this month it fell in an angular house, in my first house. And this, I feel, is very complementary to this, the North Node conjunct my midheaven this month. Because this is really bringing a level of focus because the stellium here in the first house, but additional focus because now we have focus from the soul as well in some big points of mine. So December, I already knew it was going to be a turning point month for me. I already knew for years, been waiting for this time. And you will see this demonstrated in the way that the planet's configured here in the lunar return for me. This place where the North Node is in, conjunct the midheaven, is actually conjunct my natal sun as well. So that is the big epiphany and aha moment that I was waiting to happen to me, that I've been waiting for a while now because I knew it was going to be significant. Whenever you have the North Node touch any of your planets, this is a sole focus there. So if you see the North Node creeping up on one of your planets, like right now it's in Gemini, the North Node is in Gemini. If you have any placements in Gemini and even angles, maybe you don't have any natal planets, but maybe your midheaven is in Gemini. These, you want to pay attention because whenever you have the soul focus there, this is, wow, you want to listen. So the fact that the North Node was coming closer and closer with my sun was a significant turning point for me that I've been waiting, because I knew that this was going to involve a new level of connections and partnerships, and a lot of powerful masculine figures, especially, that are entering my life. And I'm really excited because this month coming up, there's a focus on women here for me. I'm not going to get sidetracked here, but I think I'm going to have a lot of powerful feminine connections this month, which I'm really looking forward for. But this month of December really put a spotlight in my masculine sector. Father as well. Remember I said that I had that other additional heart opening with my father, of course, as the North Node conjuncts it. And then, last but not least, my own light and my own expression. And when the North Node conjuncts your light and expression, this is like the soul being like, all right, honey, time to rise and shine, ready or not, here it goes. So it's a time that for me, I want to be very am I ready? Is there anything that I am not looking or listening, or that I could be looking and listening more? So it was a sobering time for me. And of course, that was reflected in the crossroads, right, that we were talking about in the last one. We have this crossroads with fate. We're having this collectively actually happening, with Neptune being involved in this T-square. This T-square is going to perfect for the world by the end of January. So this is a crossroad with fate, destiny, our own destiny that we write, that we create, that we experience. And we are at a crossroads here with the element of spiritual awareness. Neptune is our spiritual awareness. So I'm going to make a whole video about that for people to watch. But we're collectively, like, the clock is ticking here, and this spiritual awareness factor has been locking into this T square for, every month more and more. But for this last month, especially these last couple months, it's been very, very active with what are you going to do now? You're at a crossroads. Show me what you got. You had your years to learn, you had your years to practice, to study, to do the job. Now, where are you? Where are you at with all this? And this is where we're heading collectively, as a species. And if we want to summarize it all, and of course, it's being reflected in many ways. So, of course, Neptune in a T square can definitely bring the element of confusion, indecision, feeling helpless, which is, we see a lot of that happening as well. But it's interesting to look at it in your own chart and seeing what that means for you. Some people are going to feel it more than others. Some people are everyone's feeling it to some extent, but then you get someone like me who has the natal sun over here, and this is bringing a big responsibility to how I show up in the world. So it's significant for me, and it's so significant when you get a chart, whether it's your chart or other people's charts, and you're going through a really key moment in your life. Okay. So, like, let's say that the situation that Jen shared in the beginning. I wasn't recording this, but Jen shared a situation she went through today with a neighbor. And it was interesting because there was like a South Node thing going on there, wasn't there? We're talking about Sagittarius, and we have the South Node. So these could be themes for Jen that are past life, and or some point of familiarity. Maybe she's already been through the same type of situation in other lifetimes or with other people, and it's a pattern that wants to be recognized now, and and healed and all of that. But when we have personal planets that are coming in through there, it solidifies those experiences as meaningful to us. So Jen shared this experience, and I'm not sure if she has any placements that are together with this, but if you have placements that are aligned with a certain experience, they're showing up in your chart, it's significant. It's significant. Not every experience you're going to have is going to show up there, but the ones that do are significant. Now, there's different levels of significance. It could be significant for the week. It could be significant for the month. It could be significant for lifetimes for you. When something is very, very, very significant, you're going to see confirmations throughout the chart. You're going to see that same theme show up in different ways. So you're probably going to see it show up in several lunar returns. You're going to see it show up through transits in your natal chart, and then you're going to see similar themes confirm it in your lunar return, for example. This is very common. So I remember in astrology reading something that really stood out to me, and I thought it was a really good thing to go by. And this astrologer was saying that they'll never do a prediction, quote unquote, before confirming that event in at least 3 different places. That's a very bold move over there, because you're really guaranteeing that you're really getting those confirmations to ensure that that theme is active for the person. When we get familiar with synthesizing charts, we're going to see that there's different options for different things. So we're going to get confirmations for those things in different areas. For example, Chiron in my 7th house over here, I experienced a great deal of this energy, not so much as the conflict as much as me being there for others and experiencing the healer in me assisting others. Now, you can confirm this because my 6th house is very much here, the service-oriented healer thing that we talked about. So this is a confirmation. This would be a confirmation to the aspect of healing and helping others, and that type of. I bet if Aries was on the cusp of my 7th house, the dynamic would be different, and it wouldn't be that theme showing up in my chart. There would be a little more of the aggression and all of that happening. But you will see confirmations. And so that's how you start to know the level of importance of a certain situation in your life or for the life of a loved one. So in my case, we have a huge focus on me and my path in this lunar return. I have my stellium in the first house, indicating that, boom, this is what you're supposed to look at this month. And then we have the confirmation of North Node on the midheaven, like time to focus on what's next for you. So the people are going to show up, the situations, the ideas are going to show up to pull you toward your mission even more. And then another confirmation is that this is all happening while it's conjuncting my natal sun. So that brings my sun, my natal sun is featured on the midheaven. So for you to have an idea, this is me taking my notes here. I put N and the sun. Can you see that? Natal sun. So natal sun, I make these little markings over here in my chart when I notice that I have a planet a natal planet that is being highlighted in my lunar return. So I'll go to my little thing and I'll go around it and start drawing in, 19, this is my natal sun. Over here, if you want to, you don't have to, but you can go around the whole wheel filling in with your natal placements. In the 10th house, it would be my natal Venus and Mercury, which is a very highlighted point for them, really elevating all these relationship themes again, and a lot of the Venus and Mercury related themes for me. And you can go filling it, and you're going to see that some of them are conjunct the planets in the sky for your lunar return. And when you find that match, that pairing, it becomes a very powerful experience for you that you actually feel. Well, I want to be careful. It's not, depending on the planet, not everything is going to be super noticeable in lunar returns. Okay, but depending what you have there, it will be noticeable. So obviously a sun and a north node conjunction is a powerful moment of anybody's life. So actually this is the foundation, and this would be the starting point. So the north node is awakening my sun. This is the primary thing that's happening, and it's so important to me that it's showing up in my lunar return on the midheaven. Really bringing that level of mission to it and responsibility toward the mission. This is what I've been feeling. Now, in addition to the, focus from the universe and speeding up and bringing me and aligning me with people and places and things, and the Virgo theme here for the year, I started to get a level of clarity as well about my next steps moving forward that I haven't had in a long time. Now, this was so significant to me that you can see it confirmed in my Mercury conjunct part of fortune this month. So as a matter of fact, if I look at my aspects here, my aspect grid, I was really happy when I saw this lunar return because the planet Mercury is very clear of any harsh aspects here. It's got a square with Ceres and Vesta. I don't take the asteroids into consideration unless they're very much standing out or they do speak to me for some reason. So it's the asteroids are more of an intuitive thing. And even then, a square is not felt that much as it would be with a planet, as if it was with a planet. So in other words, my natal Mercury is it was very well aspected, which I haven't gotten a Mercury like this. I'll tell you what, every lunar return, Mercury is like one of the first things I look at. I go to my aspects over here in my chart. It shows over here the aspects, and I look at it, and I'm like, I go to Mercury, and look at how I even put. I don't know if you can see, but I put a little like star, and I put like, yes, finally, with my Mercury, because it's like a dream come true to get a Mercury so clear like this. It's been insane for Mercury altogether, but it's like I always manage to get when Mercury's in a square with the moon or Mars and like opposing it. I'm like, oh God. And my entire work revolves around Mercury. I mean, all of our lives do, but Mercury is just such an important aspect to me, maybe because of my Gemini sun. So when I saw this over here, I was like, oh, okay, yes, thank God. So this gave me a lot of like security with my also my downloads and my experiences that I was having. I'm like, I gotta trust my channel's clear today, this month. And also this quintile with the sun and moon, very rare, very rare. Man, if you see your sun and moon, anything in a quintile is a rare alignment because it's a very specific 72-degree angle between planets. And Chiron and Pluto have been in a quintile, by the way, for like a year or something now. Like it's been a long time. So it just emphasizes the healing part with the entire tribulation that we're going through. But the quintile energy is very much of a magical energy. It's an energy that is here to assist you, but it's not a mundane, it's not like a help, like, oh hey, let's do this type of thing. There's a lot of spiritual creativity that comes with the quintile energy, especially when we have like Mercury, which is the mind, moon, which can be your intuition as well. So the sun and moon quintile is a high level of creativity, very, very high level of creativity. And I think it is shown in like uh my connections this month. I was doing a lot of connections, especially with men, of course, with all this emphasis in the masculine thing. I was having a lot of connections with men doing charts for them, and this is, work related. Men that were like involved in some high level activity, operation, or something that they're doing for the planet. And I found myself by word of mouth, all of a sudden, I'm like trying to help these men make certain moves moving forward, and things like that. And so it was an interesting experience because I'm not very comfortable using my astrological gifts for this type of like prediction and that level of strategy, especially when it's for others, because it's a very, very tricky thing. It depends on where they're at as a soul. If you have, like, let's say a moon and Saturn square, two different people are going to feel it in different ways depending on where they're at. So it's a very intricate thing to predict things for people and on that level. But these people are influential, and so it's you can see it here by this quintile. My connection with men definitely have been very much in the creative, but also the magical aspect of the quintile is that it unites forces that can have a repercussion at later months, later years, that are very significant. So as far as the sun and moon, here we have the masculine and feminine energies. And I don't know if we're going to continue working together or what, but it could just be the beginning of other doors that are opening for me as well, with connecting with more people that are in influence and in those circles, because it's word of mouth and all of it. But the sun and moon also gives you an ability to connect the intuitive and spirit part with your expression. So this is a very creative aspect for creation too. So through these connections with these people, and these people that I'm helping as well, they're coming to me also offering to assist me and to help, and how can I help, and what do you need help with, and things like that. So it's very interesting to see this quintile happen here with the sun and moon. Very rare. But actually my point was Mercury. Mercury had just free reigns this month to to create, to get clear. So I got very clear on certain things that I need to do moving forward, and it's a level of clarity that I haven't had in a long time. And I'm very glad that they came in through the Virgo energies, and that it also came in at a time where I know my mind is more clear than usual, and very relaxed too. Like, I want to emphasize that just because your Mercury is like in all these harmonious aspects, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a bed of roses for your Mercury. There is a sense of relaxation around your speech and around your mental activity. For me personally, it was more of like an easygoing energy, like, it's okay, Raquel, don't stress over you didn't get that done. It's okay. It was more like that. It doesn't necessarily mean it's always good because sometimes you got to do stuff. So this is where the squares and the oppositions can be good because the squares and the oppositions can push you to get those things done. So I definitely felt that relaxed and easygoing, like, it's okay, I didn't get done. It was a good thing for me to feel that because I felt very overwhelmed with the amount of people that I had come into my life and wanting to connect and wanting my phone. And like pretty soon I got everyone's messaging me. Like, everybody wants to come over to my house. And so it was a good thing to have my Mercury so relaxed. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to cope with it. But on the other hand, it's relaxed. So depending on what your dynamic is there was a couple times in my month where I actually looked at my Mercury and I said, I'm going to be happy for my next lunar return. I'm going to be happy for my squares to my Mercury and whatever is coming next because it would be nice to have a little extra, energy here to take on like these monumental things that have been showing up in my life. At the rate I'm going, I'm like, I need a personal assistant. Like, I'm going crazy here. So, just interesting to see how all these little nuances show up. But Mercury with the part of fortune overall is a very happy and easy flow of connection with others, communication, expression. So, the sun over here on the north node, this sun and north node conjunction that I had highlighted and still have because it's still the transit is still there. It's still conjunct my sun, by the way. Is so important that it's being reflected and confirmed. And look at the opposition. This is exactly where the transiting sun stationed, opposing my natal sun and conjunct the south node. So conjunct the south node is confirming the significance of all these specific masculine experiences, even with my father, these significant men showing up and how I feel in some ways they are, in many ways, the men that showed up in my life last month, they are pushing me to be a better version of myself. They're helping me in their own way to like step up my game here. So it's such a powerful experience that it's showing up. Significant men coming in through the past life, coming in through the familiar zone. I'm sure at least a few of them definitely were coming from that past life. So it's being reflected and in an opposition. Okay, this is also the full blooming, the full view of an experience. So the sun opposing sun, the sun will do this with your natal sun once a year. Wherever your sun is, if you have a Cancer sun, once a year when the sun is in Capricorn, it's going to oppose your natal sun. And this is generally a moment of highlight for you of the year. It could be, depending on the other alignments, it could be a moment of highlight of that year for you and the themes of how you've been shining and exerting your influence and power and vitality in the world. So the fact that this happened to me, conjunct the south node and conjunct Mercury as well, but especially the south node. And, it's such a significant point here shown. And then, of course, look, Venus and Juno in Scorpio, highlighting this level of relationship that I was describing. And that can be additional information here for my seventh house, because a lot of this was also the aspect of Scorpio with relationships here that bring the wounding, or that you experience the wounding from another when you're helping them. But above and foremost, it really was the level of connections that I made and the intensity behind it. Some of the stories, they were related to the last session when I shared a little bit of in the after party, we talked about, some of these people that I'm like getting to know better. They've been involved for years with these more like behind the scenes, you don't really hear about type of scenarios. And here we have in my stories in the after party of the last class, we were talking about the 7 dragon heads. And these are people that are like, this is coming straight from the source type of thing. And other like taking the pill that we talked about. We talked about this longevity pill that I found out that people take, and it expands your life by 100 years. And so this is like the level of conversation that these people are having, and like, oh, did you get invited to take it? You have to get an invitation. Would you take it? And I'm just standing there like, wait, what timeline am I in? I'm like, I'm just an astrologer, like, But really finding myself with these circles of people, and just getting more and more intertwined with them. So, well, at least at this stage here, this lunar return. So, of course, my stories here are very intense and drastic, and maybe you won't feel your lunar return that intense or that drastic. But I like I like to use these stories that really bring together a concept. And like, for example, the concept here is reminding you the versatility of a Scorpio. Scorpio is black or white, and here Scorpio is being highlighted in relationships, Venus and Juno. Totally relationships for me. And in the busy house of networking, of friends, of people that I just meet, my immediate connections. So we have that Scorpio theme there holding together this conjunction, bringing those make it or break it connections and levels of deep connection with others, but also going deep and like, oh my god, there's more to this mess, there's more to this this reality, or there's more to the story. And that's Scorpio's about opening the lid and like, let's see what has been hidden here all along. So this is very descriptive. Let me see what else here. Okay, so I talked a little bit about this crossroads here with Neptune. I want to talk about yes, there is a very big significance for me because I have my natal sun as well. So this is probably the main thing now in my chart that I just have to go through. The square that Neptune is forming with my sun. It's been in a square with my natal sun for a year now. And I have a few more years left to go, because after it squares my sun, it's going to square my natal Neptune. And the natal Neptune with the transiting Neptune square is a generational thing everybody goes through. But I'm paving the way for that Neptune square right now with my sun. And it's not easy at all, because you have such a hard time merging the two worlds. Like, and I know we're all going through this. This is the incredible thing, is that we're all going through this, especially now because the North Node and the South Node are involved in this for the world. But with the sun here, it's like, boom, I'm used to shining this way. Bam, bam, bam. This is my schedule. This is my routine. This is what I do. And then along comes Neptune in an opposition in a square and says, well, what did you say again? What is it? Let's see that. Is it really that? Is that really your schedule? And just messes everything up for you. And so this is where you just have to go with the flow. And I've been learning so much with this, because it's like when Neptune calls, you got to listen. Whether it's meditation or that avatar experience I shared, or an extra nap, or time in stillness and away from things, like Neptune is Neptune. And in a square with your sun, it can feel confusing, because your sun needs to shine. It needs to do things. And part of me has already like been to the universe like, do you want me to do this job or not? If you wanted me to do this job, why do I have Neptune now square? Like, when Neptune is square your sun, it's like everything gets foggy. So it's been very interesting having these men kind of step up and show up in my life. And in many ways, I feel that support and that, like, you can do it, Raquel. You can do it. You're not alone. Like, we got your back too. There's a whole other world of things that are happening here, and you're supported. So this was a very turning point for me with the crossroads energy, because for me personally, it's been putting into the crossroads. What are you going to do next? You've gotten this far, you've done this much and so forth, and now you're here. Now what? So this was a very now what moment for me. And in light of that, I received a level of clarity and a renewed commitment as well. So this is the other aspect I wanted to show you, because Vesta is involved in this T square for the world. So she has been actually, involved. It's been a while now that she's been in this actually it's a grand cross, which is even more beautiful, because if we balance all of this with our focus and commitment, this is showing up in the Virgo house for you right now, this can give us that support that we need, because it's creating the foundation here. So it's where you feel you're being stretched and pulled to your limits. So on one hand, it's just like, can I take another day of this? But it's also like when you see the foundation there and you have the ability to start actually building something now with those energies. So for the world, this is something I'm going to talk about, and you're going to hear me talk about in my videos later in the month as we approach this apex of Neptune and the North Node and South Node. It's going to be a turning point for the world. But for us, it's going to be very important to remember our focus and commitment in it all, and what we are even doing here, and what is our focus in it all, because it's going to be our saving grace. If we turn to, especially people that have placements in Vesta, in Vesta, in Virgo. Let me see where Vesta is right now. So this is Vesta. Look, at the end of January, exactly. This is where the North Node and the South Node are going to be at 18 degrees. And here we have Neptune, transiting Neptune. So it's actually going to happen a little bit before. Look at that. This is the closest they get right over here. January 23rd, 24th, 25th. See how they're all at 19 degrees? South Node, Neptune, North Node. So all of this until look, and then the North Node changes. The nodes change to 18 degrees, but they're still in a square. This is something that we've been building up for the last couple months, going to be active for another month or two. But the culminating point is the last few days of January for the world. So at the same time, Vesta is also here, so this 15 to 25 degree, actually not so much, because Vesta is an asteroid. So, I'd use 3 to 5 degrees on each side, 5 the most. But if you have anything around this zone in your chart, in your natal chart, it's adding information on how you can balance these energies in your life. And if you don't have any natal planets like me, you look at your house. I do have my natal Vesta in Virgo, so I love this energy. But, I don't have it in the 20 degree mark. So I know that for me, this is entailing a huge part of my service and my work with the community. And as long as I keep my focus there, that's where Vesta is asking us to keep our focus on, whether you have planets there or not. Just look at your house. And I know that as long as I keep my focus there, I can balance these big energies that are culminating for the world, So that's very much of the crossroads thing. And I know we had one of our students ask me to explain that more in depth last time. So that's why I'm explaining now. So that's how it showed up for me, and pointing to the house of spirit. A lot of my work was very past life related, spirit related, my focus. And so through that, I was able to also pull a lot of clarity and, things that I'm more and more solidifying as things that I have to do while I'm here on Earth, And I'm going to just very briefly introduce here and just let you know that a big part of it, Venus, the planet Venus, has been speaking to me since February. And I know many of you know that because I've been talking about it. And, I had the video where she just like started to dance in the sky in front of everybody. So Venus has been very active and speaking to me. And there's been a series of synchronicities happening in many, many, many ways, that there's a collective energy that's being called right now from Venus to planet Earth. And a lot of women are picking up on this too. But there is an energy that wanting to be materialized as in actual physical spaces, that is coming through as like temples of Venus. And this actually started for me in February. And I'm at a point right now where I'm starting to see a lot of women talk about this. So they're picking up collectively as well on this. And it's interesting how like one person picks up, another one picks up, and you start to feed that into the collective, and others become aware of it too. So there's a lot of women already talking about this, and in different ways, doing courses, doing retreats, doing, like, there's a girl here who's building her house in Sedona, and her download was that she had to make her house into a retreat center based on Venus. So her house is going to be called a Venus Villa. So interesting. But I had a series of synchronicities throughout the year lead me to this place where I'm at now, that I have to do something with this. I feel that it's my responsibility, not only as an astrologer, but also just as the wisdom keeper that I am, and a lot of things, to bring closer this energy of Venus to the planet. So we've been talking about building these temples of Venus, whatever they're going to be. I don't know. It's coming to me in bits and pieces. And I'm like, even if I only start as an online school where we can start to have more mystery school themes and other things started, but there's something that has been calling me from that, pushing me to do this. And if I sit here and tell you all the synchronicities, you'll be like, wow. But this month was the month where, again, the crossroads with destiny. What are you going to do? And a lot of it, because of the Virgo, the Virgin, the sacred, the priestess, the service, this is where a lot of it came through for me. And Virgo and Pisces is also the axis of the Christ consciousness, by the way. For those of you that work a lot with that frequency, the Christ consciousness is very much related to, this is the Jesus and Mary Magdalene as well. This is very much the Pisces and Virgo axis. So even if you have this in your natal chart prominent, a lot of people that have their north node and south node in this axis, they feel very connected with this, this lineage, if you will. So anyway, long story short, that was another powerful download that came through. I'm going to let you guys, okay, before I let you ask questions, I want to conclude here. This is very powerful confirmations as well for me, with the aspect of the people that I'm getting involved with, the level of, I shared a little bit in my last session in the after party, and explained that I'm getting involved in the banking world now. 8th house, 8th house. And, it's interesting because this combination is very sexual too. And I didn't have any sex last month, not any physical sex at least, but it just goes to show that these combinations can manifest in different ways. And, in someone else's chart, this probably would indicate a very spicy sexual month, or a connection, or some sort of even activation that comes through sexual energy. Because whenever you see Uranus combined with any sexual aspect, like I did a reading today for someone who is getting, for her solar return, she's getting Uranus and Mars. She's getting the conjunction of when Mars reaches Uranus, she's getting that conjunction for her year ahead in the 5th house. And I said, honey, get ready. I said, there's going to be sexual activity for you, and there's probably going to be some activations that come from it as well. She's like, yes, I'm ready. So, looking at a chart like this, you can probably say that to someone too, depending on the chart you're looking at, especially if it's a solar return, because you get these energies for a year. So they manifest in many different ways. So this is a very sexual combination. And whenever you get Uranus with like in a sexual house or with a sexual planet, this adds electricity. This adds the activation. It's a very electrical, magnetic, and, very spicy combination too. It could be dangerous depending on other factors. Yes, in the eighth house, conjunct Black Moon Lilith, it could be, dangerous, or exploring some more of the unspoken of parts of sex and so forth. But this combination is an interesting one in the eighth house. But I personally experienced it with money, with the banking thing. Like, that's how significant it was for me. So getting involved with these people and learning more about it, like I was like watching documentaries. Like, I got to understand how this works. Getting into the digital coin. Okay, I talked about that with my students. So not wanting to get into all the stories and everything now again, but with all of my air placements that I have here, and this getting triggered with the grand conjunction, this brought a lot of speeding up of my purpose and what I'm here to do. Connecting Mars, descendant, of course, and then my stellium in Libra. So it's been a big moment, and for me, a lot of it has been getting to understand this digital currency world, because I've always been the type that I'm like, nah, whatever, it's all good. Like, we're gonna make money anyway, Like, yeah, I know the dollar is coming undone, but we're gonna keep making money anyway. So I've always been that type. And this month, it's like, no. This month, I was forced to buy my first batch of Bitcoin, so I could get started in the cryptocurrency. And so I guess this was also a part of my, crossroads with destiny here, very much so. But getting involved with the cryptocurrency, because it's like, okay, now I'm involved with these groups of people that are, involved with these beings that are thousands of years old and hundreds of years old. And I'm like, what am I, this planet Earth still? Like, what's happening here? It's like, if I want to understand that language, I gotta study it and like understand what's happening here. And so that was very much, and this is very descriptive also of this fifth house activity, all these big business planets and social planets also, Palace's business, but especially in the eighth house, it was, going deep, uncovering some things that I didn't want to know about or didn't want to hear about, but like, really, like, okay, if I'm going to get into this, I got to know about these things. And, it's just that whole world was compacted this lunar return in the eighth house activity. Very much so. Very much so. So let me open for any questions that may be alive right now before I conclude this. And I'm going to show you.
Can I say something?
Yes. Jasmine. Is that Jasmine? Yes, I'm starting to recognize the voice. Hi, Jasmine.
Would you, you mentioned it that the December was a very significant month for you.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what I heard, would you agree that my understanding is it's what would be the word? It's like opening up something for you. So it's not a culmination, but it's starting something out for you.
It would be a culmination of all the preparation that I've been doing and gearing up for, and where my path has led me up until now, like even to be here in Sedona, So it's a culmination of all of that.
Okay.
But in the other hand, that is a fantastic observation, because this is even part of my rule of living, being on the path of freedom that I say I am. Like, this is my secret, is I immerse myself passionately into every moment, but I am not attached to any of it. And this is the real secret and key here to living this, this life. And of course, there's many levels and layers to that, because you can't be enslaved to work or routine or someone or a group of people in order to even live that. But in my case, I'm very aware of that. And I'm very aware of the nature of people. People come and people go. And at this stage of the game, I'm not, I'm not at that like blaming, oh, why did you do this or that? I understand that certain people will come for a specific time to help with different things. So just because I'm having all these north node, south node, sun connections, It doesn't mean that like, okay, now she's going to live happily ever after. She has found her. This is like, it could be, but life is dynamic. And so I know it's just speaking of this point, like of all these important men and situations that are crossing my path and assisting with this cross of destiny. Like, wow, I'm really realizing this now. Like, not only do I have the cross of destiny featuring my natal sun, but also the transiting sun. So it's like really big, like from all directions. Like when I say that I had significant men in my life, like I mean it. But they've been helping me. They've been helping me with my purpose. And I'm like, well, okay, then if that's where I was like, okay, Venus, if you want me to do this, like universe, like, okay, support me. Where's the help here? And that's exactly what I felt. I felt that help come in. And I felt finally that like, wow, what am I really here for? What do I envision myself doing? It was a month for me where I experienced a lot of that, like seeing my life the way that I can envision it in a year from now, in 3 years from now, 5 years from now, because now I can. Not as opposed to before, like I want to, and so I'm going to visualize it because I'm meditating and I want to attract it. It's a very different experience. Meditate, being with that and being like, what do I want to create? I can do anything I want. It's not a very fun, not for someone who has a moon and Saturn conjunction that is already like always feeling responsible for everything. But for me, it was like, wow, okay, I'm at a turning point here in my life. What exactly am I doing and what do I want to do next? So I'm very aware that the people in my life this month, they may continue in my life for another month or so or years to come, and maybe not. So very good point, because this is for all of us. Don't ever get attached to anything that is culminating in your chart or just having this grand celebrating moment. Like you're still going to have next month, the month after that. So great point, Jasmine.
I think that's, you said it beautifully, because I think at any moment of the time in our life, it's always new beginnings and culmination.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. And also very much putting the responsibility on me, like knowing that even though I have all these potential opportunities showing up and all these people here to help me, at the end of the day, I know very well that they can come and go. I know the nature of the times we're in. I know people are dealing with a lot of stuff. I can't count on things that people say. And so I appreciate it and I will go with it if it's there. But at the end of the day, I need to continue focusing on me and what I'm doing. So at the end of the day, it was very much a thing for me of like, what is my work all about? And how am I stepping up my game with my work with astrology, which is what I have today. And how am I still staying focused on that and taking it to the next level next year? So this was also very much a putting me in the spotlight, like, where are you at with everything? Any other questions?
Just wondering, the avatars you were speaking about, it's Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the planets, is that right? That you're speaking about when you speak about avatars?
When I say avatars, I'm referring to the masters, the Buddhas, the Jesus, I don't even know their names very well. I've never really read books or, there's so many of them. They're like the same frequency incarnated in different bodies that have evolved to that level of expression to be able to live this type of path where they can hold the state of awareness. So through that state of awareness, they do miracles, right? And we hear stories of miracles or these transcendent states of being that they were here to introduce to the planet. They were like the original ones bringing these high level frequencies, Christ consciousness, for example, through Jesus, whether he did exist in physical form or not. This is a frequency, and it came through in many different ways to introduce this ability for the planet to also do this. So right now we're at a turning point because these masters have paved the way through, thousands of years. And today we're at a point where we're physically capable of understanding that level of awareness and embodying it as well. So we're having a collective Christ consciousness dissension happening Dissension. No, that's not even a word,
But
right?
you're right, though. I mean, the Christ consciousness is descending upon us in this current era, and
Yeah.
we are experiencing our own upgrades and our own DNA enhancements, different things like that. Those of us who are born with certain things certain DNA structures are gonna experience some things.
That's why we're having the crossroads with Neptune, with the spiritual, with the North Node for the world, because we really are reaching that level. We really are reaching that point of like, all right, you had all the books, you had all the teachers, you had all the avatars, you had all the, the spoon feeding. Now, honey, you're on your own. Like, what are you going to do about it? Let's step up into this. So now we are learning how to step up into these avatar figure likes where we can hold the state of awareness in our day to day. And as we do that, we perform these miracles and healings, but really we're just becoming more aware of our nature. But just as we have these upgrades, like all these avatars and all these other stages of these frequencies, they're also going through their own, concluding like a lot of their purpose here, helping humanity and earth, and they're continuing their evolution as well. So that's what I was referring to.
That's great. Thanks so much for that. I know I'm getting a lot of downloads and things like that too. And when I miss some of my spiritual practices, I feel it really deeply, especially lately. And I know you and I had some kind of conversations recently. I've had some epiphanies and some thoughts that I need to take a vacation here somewhere pretty in the next couple of months' time to kind of ignite some things. But I want to do a strategic plan on those things. And it's cool how you mention using multiple charts to kind of set those objectives up for oneself.
Yeah, because you want to know how significant it's for you and your path.
Exactly, because that's what I'm thinking. I slipped off of all my schedule of doing anything contract related or any other studies except for what happened a couple of days back when we had that other
discussion. Yeah.
It just threw me. I won't discuss it here in another class, because I've had some epiphanies since you and I have had our chats as well, and I've kind of realized why I'm here.
Wow.
What this location is for Paul in his travels, and why I got this space in place. My hometown. It's a big town of the War of 1812. It has a huge fort there. People have been holding fort here for a long time. And this is my post. This is my post.
You shared a little bit of that. You shared that you're getting clarity on that. And I love how astrology can help us get clear on these things. Because like for me personally, it saves me so much. Like with this moon and Saturn conjunction I have, it's been a lifelong thing to like not feel guilty or not feel it's like it's never good enough type of thing, And for me, I've been like really struggling with a lot of patterns and stuff. But when I see alignments coming, be like, no, you're good. Keep going. That's it. Like, don't close your doors there. It gives me that like, okay. I'm going to do it. And it gives me that sense of security that, okay, now is the time for me to do that. So for you, Paul, it's getting these confirmations astrologically. It's not just your feelings around it or your whatever, but now you have that concrete yes from the cosmos and the universe. Like, yep, that's your cycles.
A lot of our conversation was kind of related to war, I'll say, in a kind of a way, right? That Martian energy type of thing.
Yeah.
I sent you an email earlier, but I was watching something on the internet about the Betsy Ross flag. Pardon me, the Betsy Ross flag now flying on top of the White House. That's the sign of revolution. Okay, so Trump yesterday.
Oh my God, and I've been calling 2021 the year of social revolution. It's coming, man.
Possibility the flag has been raised, and they're going to need to do some, I'll say, legal types of things before they can do anything else, which is kind of cool because I know what they're supposed to do. Whether they will do it or not, I'm hard to say. But if they do what they're supposed to do, more fun.
Yeah. Wow. Guys, like just on another note for the world, I am literally holding my breath. I am so curious to see how this is going to unfold because the last 2 weeks of January are just so charged, like so charged. We have all the planets are going to be direct. All the asteroids in the sky are going to be direct. Like everything's going to be direct. Eris is okay. Mars enters Taurus tomorrow. Then Eris stations direct on the 10th. Then on the 14th, Uranus stations direct, and it's just like everything's direct. And then we have all that build up in Taurus with Black Moon Lilith. And remember last time Chiron and Black Moon Lilith conjuncted? It was in Aries, and that's when COVID broke out. Okay. So now they're coming together, but it's in Taurus, which is sex, it's money. That's why I'm like, something maybe the economy, or definitely, I'm already seeing the sex scandals. I mean, I'm not gonna say scandals, like a lot of disclosure coming up. You know, this is gonna be big. Yeah. So I'm just like holding my breath, like, what's gonna happen? The last weeks of January are really big. Yeah.
Jasmine just asked a question. What did you just say about Betsy? Jasmine, I was talking about the Betsy Ross flag of the United States of America back